Hello friends, welcome to DentLect, the online free dental lecture series. Today's session will be on radiation biology, which is nothing but the study of ionizing radiation on the human body or the living tissues. The effects of radiation on the living systems can be broadly classified into deterministic and stochastic effects. The deterministic effects are those effects in which the severity of the response is proportional to the dose, and these effects occur in all the people when the dose is large enough. An example for this could be mucositis following radiation therapy. The second is the stochastic effects, which are sublethal DNA damage and genetic mutations that occurs, which is independent of the dose. And the example for this could be radiation-induced cancer. So when you see the chemistry of this radiation, it can act on the living systems either directly on the body or indirectly. Direct effect is nothing but when the radiation strikes on the biological macromolecules of your body and there is a release of free radicals, then the effect is called as direct effect. The indirect effect of radiation happens predominantly by radiolysis of water. This is based on the concept that 70% of body weight is composed of water. So when radiation strikes on the water molecule, the molecule H2O releases one electron, and this displaced electron will go on further combining with the next set of water molecules, and there is finally a negatively charged H2O molecule which is produced, and this molecule is not stable, and this will further dissociate into hydroxyl ion and hydrogen ion, and this again is unstable, which will start combining with other hydroxyl and other hydrogen ions and thereby producing hydrogen peroxide and gas. Hydrogen peroxide alters the biological molecules and finally causes cell destruction. Based on the duration, the radiation effects can be classified as either short-term effects or long-term effects. So as the name suggests, the effects that are seen within minutes, days or weeks are termed as short-term effects, and this is associated with large amount of radiation being absorbed in a short duration of time. An example for this could be exposure to nuclear accident or atomic bombs. And now coming to the long-term effects that appears after years, decades or even generations later. And these effects are associated with a small amount of radiation which is absorbed repeatedly over a long period of time. And example for this could be a repeated radiation exposure causing birth abnormalities or genetic defects. When it comes to effects of radiation at a molecular level, you can expect breakage of one or both DNA strands leading to chromosomal aberrations or chromatid aberrations, cross-linking of DNA strands within the helix to another DNA strand or to the proteins. In a cell structure, the nucleus is supposed to be more radiosensitive than cytoplasm, and the most radiosensitive site in the nucleus is the DNA within the chromosomes. The radiosensitivity of the cells depends on three major factors, that is, it should have a high mitotic rate, undergo many future mitosis, and primitive in their differentiation, that is your blast cells. So the bottom line here is the radiosensitivity depends upon whether the cell is very active and multiplying. So based on these factors, the most radiosensitive organ could be your lymphoid organs, bone marrow and mucous membranes, and the least radiosensitive organ is your optic lens and muscles. Let me brief you about the radiation effects on the oral cavity. To begin with, on the oral mucous membrane, the basal layer is composed of radiosensitive differentiating intermitotic cells. By the end of second week of radiotherapy, some of these cells tend to die and the mucous membrane begin to show some redness and inflammation, and this is called as mucositis. On the later stages, this irradiated mucous membrane breaks down and it forms white to yellow pseudomembrane. Around the second or the third week of radiotherapy, the taste buds are affected, leading to loss of taste sensation. When it comes to salivary glands, you can expect an acute inflammation, xerostomia, which is dryness of mouth, and progressive fibrosis. The effect of radiation on the teeth depends on the stage of development of the tooth. If the radiation is occurring during the development of tooth, then it retards the growth of it. If it precedes the calcification, then the tooth bud can get destroyed. And if the radiation is after the calcification, this inhibits the cellular differentiation and arrests the overall growth. In general, the jaws can be affected by retarded root development, dwarfed teeth, failure to form one or more teeth, anodontia, and premature eruption of teeth. Radiation caries is a form of rampant caries which occurs due to reduced salivary flow and increased viscosity. And clinically, there are three types of radiation caries. The first one being widespread superficial lesions on the smooth surfaces. The second one is involvement of cementum and dentine in the cervical region. And the third one is the entire crown gets dark and pigmented. And radiographically, it is typically called as the apple core appearance. The major effect of radiation on bone results in the damage to vasculature of periosteum and cortical bone, and this destroys the osteoblasts. So new bone formation doesn't occur. The normal marrow gets replaced by fatty marrow and fibrous connective tissue, and the degree of mineralization also begins to reduce, leading to brittleness of the bone. Thus, you have to remember the 3H of osteoradionecrosis, which is hypovascular, meaning reduced vascular supply, hypoxic, meaning reduced oxygenation, and hypocellular, meaning there is reduced number of bone cells. Coming to the last part of the session is acute radiation syndrome, which is a collection of signs and symptoms experienced by an individual after an acute whole body exposure to radiation. Based on the dose of radiation, the effect can be as follows. Initially will be the prodromal syndrome, having symptoms of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and anorexia, which occurs at a dose between 1 to 2 gray. And this is followed by a latency period where the dose is between 2 to 3 grays and the patient will exhibit no signs and symptoms. Around 4 to 7 gray of radiation, you can expect the hematopoietic syndrome, which is manifested as a rapid and profound fall in circulating granulocytes, platelets and erythrocytes, and hence it leads to infection, anemia and hemorrhage. Around 7 to 15 gray of radiation, gastrointestinal syndrome occurs, which causes injury to the rapidly proliferating basal cells of the intestinal villi. Finally, at 50 gray, there is cardiovascular and CNS syndromes, which leads to collapse of the circulatory system with fall in blood pressure in hours preceding death. So friends, I hope you understood the concept. If you have any doubts or you want me to take a particular topic, then do mention on the comment section below. Thank you.